I'm gonna show you a tutorial this time around on how to add a new weapon to Junon. Before I start, I just want to say that if you go to the Wiki and the GitHub, you can actually see a written guide on how to do it yourself. But since the written guide might not be that clearly explained, I'm just gonna show you a video of how to do it. Right, okay, so let's get started. The first thing you want to do, or usually before I even start actually, a good way to implement a feature is to copy what already works, right? So if I know that in Junon I already have a weapon called, let's say a weapon called what? Katana, for example. Oh, what? Katana. If I already have that, or I already have a weapon called lead pipe, I can just search for this word in the code base and just follow how I do it. So I'm gonna do that. If I click on search, and if I search for lead pipe, I'm gonna see a bunch of files in the code. And this is sort of like my cheat code, right? I get to see what needs to be written in order to have the same kind of functionality. And we're pretty much just gonna copy paste. We're gonna copy paste the lead pipe implementation to our new weapons implementation, and we are going to implement a new sword called Plasma Blade, recommended by Pix. He made this art, and we're gonna sort of nerf the damage here. People are complaining 55 damage is too high, but anyway, we're gonna get started. We have the skin, now we just need to implement the functionality. First things, we're gonna go through this file one by one. Lead pipe. In this file, enum.proto, it lists the building types, all the items that exist in Junon, right? And each item is mapped to an ID, and we want them to be unique. And since it's already on an ascending order, we just need to add our new item to the end of the list. Right here, we say Plasma Blade, and the new ID would be 257. That's the first step. The second step is on this index file. We just copy paste that, place it here, Plasma Blade. And here we have a file called leadpipe.js. We're gonna copy this into the same directory that it's currently sitting at. And to find where this directory is, we just go to this Explorer tab again, and you can see that, oh, okay, it's under the equipments folder. Actually, to be specific, it's under the hand folder. So we just create a new file, plasmablade.js. We paste that. Right, paste. Oh my god. And change all the words to Plasma Blade. Plasma Blade. And we have this function called getSpritePath, and it's important to take note here. We're gonna have to supply a PNG file later on to our code base. For now, we just rename that, but we want to make sure that this exists in our directory. Now we go back to the search. We already implemented the client plasmablade.js. Now we go to constants file, we just copy paste this. Plasma Blade. And define the parameters. The cost is not that important. Let's just say whatever, 1,000. But I believe that programmatically the code would determine the price of the weapon based on the requirements. So I think, if I remember correctly, it's 20 copper, 20 meteorite. Okay, copper, it's copper bar. Copper bar, 20 of them, And meteorite, let's say 25. Damage is, let's say 35. Same range. And we just change the description. Now the next step is to set the translations. Actually, for this tutorial, we can just skip the Japanese and Russian translations. We don't have to do that. It's not a requirement. We can always add it later on. And here we see that the lead pipe is being used during the tutorial, but we don't have to worry about our new weapon here, so we can skip that as well. So now we only need to change 2 more files, I believe, which is the server equipment's index, plasma blade, and this index file is mostly, it's a JavaScript thing wherein you're making a file available to be used in another file. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't make sense, it'll make sense eventually. So let's move on here. This is the server implementation of leadpipe.js. We're gonna copy the exact same thing and create an equivalent file for plasma blade. Now we paste that. Oh wait, there we go. And that should be it. Notice that this file, this class inherits from meal equipment. Oh shit. Okay. And if we want to see what meal equipment does, we can always just do Control P melee equipment. No. Wait. Don't save. Control P melee equipment. And here you can see the meal equipment class actually does already a lot of the things. It does most of the heavy lifting. This is where we implement the use function where it actually attacks targets and makes other kind of like logic, such as consuming the stamina, setting the state of the user is attacking. But if you're defining a new weapon, we don't have to do all these because these are already implemented in this class. It's already subclassed by plasma blade, and we don't have to worry about all that details. Now the only thing remaining, I believe, is to add the image, right? You define the image also on the temp assets variable in client game.js. So we go ahead, go there, game.js client temp assets. So here we can see that we define a bunch of images that we're kind of like requiring. These are images that Pixie would load from the directory and add it to its texture dictionary. And usually you would use a texture atlas for this. And because I don't have that automated right now, you just need to manually add the image name, plasma blade, to the list. But as time goes on, I need to remove like this list and add them to a texture atlas, which kind of looks like this, atlas Junon. So here in this atlas file, we see a bunch of like, hundreds of images that are specified already there, wherein we define where, I'm not sure if I can open this file. You see, this is like a compressed version of the image where everything is on one texture, so it's optimized. It prevents things from getting slow in the game. But since we only want to make the game, we want to make the feature work without the optimization hassle, we just add it to this list. So where do we add the images, right? We have an image. The images are added here in this directory. Packages, Junon.io, client assets, images. If you have trouble finding it, what you can do is go to VS Code and do go to file and just type Squidlord or whatever .png. You can just type .png, right? And by typing that, you can see which directory the images are currently living at. I can see it's under packages / Junon.io client assets images. So VS Code is pretty helpful in like finding where things are. Now we open that folder. It's right here. I believe we have plasma gun, but there's no plasma blade. So now we just need to add that plasma blade. All right, plasma blade by PX. There you go. We can just rename that so that's easier. Plasma blade. And now I believe it should work. If I run the code, npm run client and npm run server and go to this URL, I believe it should work as it is. Now we're just waiting for this to load a little bit. My PC is kind of slow. There you go. New colony, no sandbox. So we go to the craft menu and try to see if the blade is there. Yes, it is. Okay, so we see the image, we craft it, and now we have this massive sword. Oh my god. All right, so I try to spawn. Now you can see that the sprite is a lot bigger than the actual range is. So we want to modify the sprite dimensions. One thing you can do is to go open this Chrome DevTools. Okay, how do I open that, right? You click on this triple dot, click now more tools, and click developer tools. And now we have that. We can modify the sprite size at runtime. Player dot equipments plasma blade dot sprite. Okay, we see that this. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see that the sprite width and height is 180 and 48. We want to make it smaller to match the range that we desire it to have. Let's say the width should be maybe 120. Okay. I think that should be the width, and the height should be 30. No, 40 maybe. Okay. That's a lot better. But it still looks like the blade is too long. One thing we can do is to extend the range of our weapon. So if we go back to our constants, we know that the range is 55 currently, right? So we can actually modify that to 65 instead, right? Or maybe 70. 75. And change the size to 120 and 40. In order to, there you go, sprite with plasma blade. We changed the width. I believe the width is changed. Okay, let me just client base sprite. What? Sprite? No, it's client base entity. Get display width, which is based on, okay, so we define a width of 120 and a height of 40, and the position, what's our position? 50, 0. We might need to change the X to be a little bit higher. Is that good? Maybe 65. All right. That looks, maybe 62. Okay. And the anchor, do we need to change it? Anchor, no. We keep it at 0. Rotation is 1.57. That's in radians, I believe, times 180 over math.py. That's 90 degrees. Okay. So we've modified the range to 75, and let's see whether it Alright, so we reloaded the codebase, and now if we open the constants.json file, we can see that Plasma Blade has that new sprite width and height of 120 and 40. So I believe these should work now. If I go start new colony, okay, let's just ignore that for a moment. And I go Plasma Blade, craft, equip that. There you go. There you go. That's it. It works. Okay.